Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. Because I'm a man of honor and I value your time, I'll get straight to the point. Episode 6 of Ready to Love Miami was straight trash. It was 100% freshly squeezed booty juice. It's an episode that I would rate a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you haven't seen the episode yet, then I would strongly advise you to treat it like a bill collector and avoid it. But if you give me a few moments of your time, I'll tell you all about it in my episode breakdown, and I'll also discuss the connections for the show. So without any further delay, let's jump into the madness. Episode 6 kicks off with Nephew Tommy meeting with the guys, and he's telling the guys to ask the ladies the tough questions for this week. Now normally, the men and women alternate weeks for being empowered to eliminate somebody, but for this episode, Nephew Tommy neglects to tell the guys that they have the power to eliminate. Of course, the guys notice this, but they don't make much of the curveball right away. But after we see several of the cast members explore their connections throughout the episode, we learn that Andre no longer has COVID, and he wants to come back on the show. So during the group meeting, Nephew Tommy asked the group if they would be cool with Andre coming back, and naturally everybody said yes. But something tells me that Andre was coming back whether people wanted him to or not. And this was because he was on standby as Nephew Tommy was talking to the group. Now Andre coming back to the group was supposed to be a happy, joyous occasion. But things quickly take a turn for the worse as Nephew Tommy uses the group meeting as a place where everybody takes turns telling each other why their connections are not working. Mark Anthony gets the worst of it as many of the women question his motives for being on the show. And of course, no episode this season is truly complete without a little back and forth between Blake, Jeffrey, and Sue-Ann. I'm not sure who's telling the truth in that situation, but I know that they're giving me a headache with the foolishness by this point. But I would consider this whole group scene to be unnecessary drama. But of course the show is moving in this direction because it's good for ratings. But the episode ends on a cliffhanger after Nephew Tommy tells the group that 2 people will be going home by the end of the day. So yeah, I feel that this episode was a huge waste of time, and I've already come into the season with extremely low expectations, but this episode made me lose my patience at times. From the looks of things, Blake will finally get his walking papers on the next episode, but I think it happens at the end of the episode and after the double elimination. We see Morgan talking to him in the previews, and she's comparing him to being like cancer. Those are some pretty strong words coming from somebody who hated Blake since the first episode, all because he didn't want to have kids anymore. I think for the double elimination, either Jonique or Marcia will get the boot for the women, and Anthony or Blue will get the boot for the men. But let's move on to the connections for the show. Lyndon was largely absent from the last episode, but we see plenty of him for this episode. He meets up with Sue-Ann, and she calls him out for not using her number. They talk for a little bit, but it's pretty clear that they have no romantic chemistry, thus there's no need for them to waste each other's time. Lyndon also meets up with Mercedes, and there seems to be some level of chemistry between the two of them. But when Mercedes asks Lyndon what he wants to know about her, the one question that he asks is if she likes him, like they're in 5th grade. Now for me personally, I've always been of the mindset that actions speak louder than words, and if a woman likes a man, she'll let him know in some way that she likes him, whether it be directly or indirectly. If you as a man have to ask a woman if she likes you, then you might not like the answer. But Mercedes answers Lyndon by telling him that she gets friendship vibes from him. And I must say, I was proud that Lyndon didn't try to kiss Mercedes like he did Marcia, because Lyndon has a tendency to go from one extreme to another. He also has a scene with Morgan, and he seems the most normal when filming with her. But as I see them interact, I don't really get romantic vibes from them. At least not like I do with Morgan and Tony. So I don't see their connection going anywhere. Blake and Sue-Ann have their scene together, and we see Sue-Ann sit on Blake's lap, and they exchange a kiss. Now I don't know if production put them up to this, or if they're just naturally awkward when filming their scenes, but I do wonder how far their connection will go once the show's over. We then see Jeffrey and Blue having their scene, and by this point it's pretty clear that Jeffrey simply wants to be on the show for some kind of exposure or promotion. When she's with Blue, she tells him that she wants him to be more assertive, but the uncomfortable truth is that it doesn't matter how assertive Blue is, Mark Anthony is her top connection, And with Andre being back on the show, Jeffrey will likely try to pursue him because Mark Anthony doesn't really want a woman with kids. The only other cast members worth mentioning for the episode are Janique, Anthony, and Marcia. I simply don't think that the person for them is on the show. Anthony has somewhat of a decent connection with Mercedes and Cynthia, but Mercedes wants to pursue Mark Anthony, and Cynthia wants to pursue Andre. Janique and Marcia, on the other hand, don't seem to be making any meaningful connections on the show. But I'm sure that there are guys out there watching the show and waiting to shoot their shot once the season ends. But this marks the end of the review. Feel free to leave all comments below in the comment section, and I'll respond to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.